you need to pave the way with regards to permitting and planning. You need to help them streamline that. I'm not saying get around the rules or anything, but like make it easy and, make the process transparent and set timelines on it and, stick to those timelines so they get approval or not of their things. I think another part to it is incentives.
Welcome back to Beyond the Press Release podcast. This is a podcast where we speak the inside stories of African digital infrastructure. My name is Ville and 8,000 kilometers south, I have my friend Heath Anderson. How are you, Heath?
I'm well, Billy. How are you? Good to see you again.
I'm good. You're wearing a jacket. What's up?
Whew, geez, it's been cold here this week. I can see. Oh, there's snow on the mountain about 20 kilometers away from me, so we've probably hit winter now.
What's cold in South Africa?
Well, for me, yes, anything below 15 is cold for me. But like it's blue skies outside, but it's still only about 10 degrees, and that's cold.
Okay,
for me.
so that's like September, October in Finland. This is like the beginning of the winter.
I
so,
see.
so it's a different game, but I give you, I feel sorry for you. But let's speak about this topic in a couple of months when it's dark and gloomy here in Finland.
Yes.
Andersen, do you actually know where your family is from? Because that's, to me, not a Swedish name. It's not a Norwegian name. Sounds like a Danish name.
So good guess. Yes, it is. It is Danish. We don't. My mother and I have had a bit of a look to try and get into it, and I actually went to. I can't even remember. Sort of northeast Denmark quite a few years ago when we were kind of looking for some of our ancestor stuff, but we didn't get too far. But we do know they came out to Australia about 4 or 5 generations ago, and that name sort of come through the line, so to speak.
Okay, so not quite Vikings, but a little bit later.
yeah, a little bit later.
Cool. I did start my working career in Denmark, actually, 20-something years ago. I was a strawberry picker. I don't know how is that a word in English, but that's what I did.
Yes,
strawberries.
Yes, it is.
Couple of months, yeah. So you're gonna start from somewhere. Now we're here. Started from the bottom. Now we're here. Okay. Today we'll be talking about if there is a pathway for Africa to host foreign workloads. This is a topic that was kind of on the table a lot when I joined the industry a couple of years ago. Then and that was from the cloud perspective. Then I think it kind of like went silent for some time, and now it's kind of re-emerged in terms of AI. So, Heath, first thoughts. Is this a realistic idea? And let's start to break down what it would take for Africa to get there, and if they should get there anyway.
I think it's probably a yes, but a very qualified yes, in that there's each of our markets has got different attributes, different pros and cons. Like Morocco is different to South Africa. It's different to Kenya. Morocco, for instance, is its proximity to Europe. It's already got big trade connections and power cables and fiber going across. So there's definitely probably some opportunity for some foreign workloads in Morocco from Europe, as an example.
By the way, I'll pause you there already. I let you speak about the other locations, but you mentioned Morocco from North Africa. Why not the other countries? Is it a subsea cable? Is it a connectivity thing? Or is it kind of like some kind of digital readiness thing? Why aren't we speaking about Algeria or Tunis or Egypt?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. Like there's a lot of things that make up a market, isn't it? Like it's power, it's fiber availability, it's the regulatory regime there, like how open or closed it is, how strong the institutions are, how open the government is to encouraging businesses to come along, how much money goes through that place. So there's all kinds of things, and just across that North Africa bit, it's probably Egypt and Morocco are the two strong ones, because they've got the institutions, they've got the sort of the economy and the connections. I think that's why they're probably just generally growing quicker than the other ones.
Okay. Makes sense. So how about I think you were about to mention something about South Africa and Kenya at least.
Yeah. Yeah, look, then they've got their own attributes as well, hasn't it? Like South Africa, as we know, is the strongest market because it's probably got the strongest factors in all those things, regulatory regime, the amount of money that goes through there. The subsea cables are up there with Egypt, probably not as many. And so that's why it's probably the most open economy. That's probably why it's the most developed. So, that all goes in its favor. But if you're managing foreign workloads, latency can be an issue for some of those workloads. So you got to work out if that works or not. But others it isn't. So I think there's no one size fits all. There's no silver bullet that says do this and it'll work. I think it's a combination of things that the market and the operators need to do to see if they can actually attract some of those workloads.
Yeah. So, but in the global data center and especially kind of like AI industry, there's a lot of talk that now AI is not chasing, like traditionally in the data center business, you kind of follow the population density plus connectivity and power. But now it seems like the talk, because the grid and the power is so constrained in so many places, that AI is actually chasing power, and now the location will matter less. So how do you see that? Like, is that will that force some of these big AI players to host some of the inference, even like not so latency sensitive inference, somewhere else, like further from the population dense areas?
Yeah, it will. And but the first place they'll go is probably the tier 2 cities in their markets. So starts moving more out of the flap in Europe into, we've already seen it moving into Spain and Portugal and Poland. So those tier 2 markets. So those guys will get more and more, capacity. It's the same we've seen the States where, big moves to Texas and all these markets which are offering all kinds of concessions on tax and also cheap power. So I think we'll probably see that's probably where most of it will move to, and that's where we'll see the biggest move is to the tier 2 markets that are closest to those tier 1 markets that are running out of land and power.
Yeah. Is Finland a tier 2 market as well? Or is it tier 1?
I don't know. It's kind of on its own, isn't it? It's kind of, it's obviously had the climate is an interesting one for it. And I think there was lots of incentives for corporates to go, for data center guys to go there. And then, the cables, the build-up of the submarine cables made it reasonable as well. So I think there was quite a few things we've talked about there that was put together to attract those guys, just like Ireland did for 20 years, attracting, all of the big IT companies by giving them tax breaks and so on and so forth. And then eventually they have to tighten it a little bit because they're running out of land and power, or maybe running out of power. So we see that in a few different markets.
Yeah. Got it. Fair enough. Okay, let's then think once again about like the Middle East, where a lot of this building is happening at the moment. And of course, we've spoken about the capital. They have the capital to spend to build these things, and that's of course the biggest enabler. But at the same time, they are very authoritarian countries where it's very kind of, how to say, led from the high up, from the top. And if there's political will and will in general from at the top, things will get built like that. You know, you don't have to wait for permitting. They just get on with it. So let's imagine that now Heath, you'll be the dictator of Kenya from next 2027. Like, what would you do if you wanted to try a lot of kind of AI infrastructure and data center cloud investments into Kenya? Like, what are the things that you would do?
Well, that's an interesting one. I think you need to, you touched on it there. You need to pave the way with regards to permitting and planning. You need to help them streamline that. I'm not saying get around the rules or anything, but like make it easy and, make the process transparent and set timelines on it and, stick to those timelines so they get approval or not of their things. I think another part to it is incentives, and there needs to be incentives around, sort of import duties on equipment, because these things are obviously capital intensive. So you want to see if you can get some relief that way. And then also it needs to be like Kenya has obviously got the green component in the power, like their grid is, what is it, 90+% green, so that works. I think they probably need to work a little bit harder on the tariffs. They need to see if these big users, if they're using lots of power, is there opportunity to maybe give them a slightly better tariff? Because you need to if you want to do it, you've got to have a globally competitive tariff. And then they've got the cables are coming in. They need to keep promoting that, but they also need to keep promoting the open, free, let's call it carrier neutral terrestrial fiber network. There needs to be options to get in and out of your data center to the submarine cables. And then they need to keep fostering and building the talent. So the engineers and the technicians and whatever coming out of universities that are there to service and run those data centers. That's what I do.
That's super helpful. I think there's a lot of people, Kenyan people in the industry who would vote you for president after that.
That's too big a job for me. That's too big a job for me.
Anyway, that's super helpful. Okay, so then why should any African country like aim to host these global workloads? What's in it for these countries? It's going to drive projects to me. It's going to drive projects to you, and we'll benefit. But like, what's going to be in it for your common Kenyan or Nigerian or whatever?
Look, I think just what you said, that probably is the biggest benefit. It's part of bridging that digital divide and helping us come up in the digital world, and it gives us more access to things, and it gives us more opportunities around the digital products, and it will bring outside income into the country as well. So wherever we live in a digital world, so I think we want to be participating in it as much as we can.
Yeah, and I guess when you build these big international projects, you have to kind of strengthen the digital infrastructure around the data centers as well. It kind of benefits the whole ecosystem and whole infrastructure and the energy infrastructure and so forth. So I think there's a trickle.
That's a good point, because you see around, look, I'm from a steel town, right? And we even saw that there was a big steelworks where I grew up, but then you had lots of the specialist steel industries in and around that, which grew off the back of that, but then started selling their products into bigger markets. And it'll be the same thing with this. If you get a big digital product in here or digital infrastructure thing, there will be smaller businesses grow up and around that just because of it's there and it's adding to the economy. So there'll be more opportunities for people to provide those specialist skills and services.
Yeah, I think the trickle down effect is actually way bigger than the critics claim. We having the same discussion in Finland now because so many data center projects have been announced in the past year or two, and there's of course a big pushback from the community and from the society because and that's based on not knowing. It's based on fear. Of course, there's some genuine concerns over data centers that need to be talked about and handled, but still there's so many misconceptions, and I think the data center industry has been quite slow to downplay or explain like what it is, and are we going to take everyone's water and electricity and so forth.
Yeah.
So but I think the trickle down effect and benefit for the wider economy has been downplayed too much.
So that'll be an interesting one to watch in your space, because you're obviously a couple of years ahead of us. So it'll be interesting to see how that community element plays out, and what are the pros and what are the cons for it, and how community and government and the industry deals with it.
Exactly. Okay, I think that's it for the day. Thank you, Heath, as always. Try to survive cold. And for the listeners, always try to find us on YouTube. Sign up for our channel. We'll drop videos every week, and we'll provide some more good stuff. And there's going to be guests coming up in the next coming weeks and months, and so forth. See you next time.
Thanks, Ville. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.